people take increasingly in this country a more pragmatic view of our relationship. I mean, even those who voted to leave the European Union, who haven't seen all the great advantages that were promised during the referendum, think that perhaps pragmatically we can find different and better ways of getting along and working together. We can't deal with these issues by ourselves. We need to work with other countries, other governments, other police forces and intelligence agencies if we're going to make an impact on these and other very serious challenges that we have. But let's be absolutely clear about this. One is a role in Oxford and the other is a job that you're talking about. They are not the same. This is chalk and cheese.
I certainly agree with that point. I guess what I was trying to address is the idea that because of that Euroscepticism, which remains, your job may be made more difficult. So why do you think that remains, and how can we?
So I'm not quite sure why it makes my job more difficult.
In
what respect?
Creating the rapprochement between the university and the EU. You'll be working, of course, with other people.
But it's what the university wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly what it needs.
Sure, but the great attention there may make it more difficult for you to bring that closer together, given that it's not just you who's working there, there's other people. So my question is, as a result, why you think that sentiment remains and how we can address that in order to facilitate both what you're doing, but also as a country getting closer to EU in general.
I think that people take increasingly in this country a more pragmatic view of our relationship. I mean, even those who voted to leave the European Union, who haven't seen all the great advantages that were promised during the referendum, think that perhaps pragmatically we can find different and better ways of getting along and working together, and whatever it is, whether it be on trade and economics or energy or defense or security or climate change or whatever it is. There are many areas. I mean, you take migration to this country and an illegal migration. That doesn't start at Dover. It starts, on the continent, and therefore working with other countries, for example, to tackle criminal gangs, who are people smugglers and who are earning huge amounts of money at great sort of human and collateral cost to the people that they're exploiting. We can't deal with these issues by ourselves. We need to work with other countries, other governments, other police forces and intelligence agencies if we're going to make an impact on these and other very serious challenges that we have.
Want your head and hair to feel cool and clean? Been going to extreme measures to cool your head off? Then get yourself a Manscaped. Don't be like Ollie and take your scalp from zero to hero with the new scalp buffer now. Use the discount code LOAF to get your 20% off.
I hate to be the one to keep bringing it to maybe more controversial points, but as many people are concerned or might be concerned, you will be named ambassador to the US for the UK.
So what's the question?
That's the question. It's not a question. It's a statement, and you can respond to that.
I've got nothing to say to it. I mean, I read these things in the press like everyone else. I mean, I've even heard my name, coupled to the vacancy of Archbishop of Canterbury. I mean, is there no end to?
So as far as you're concerned,
to this speculation?
There's just no truth to it as far as you're concerned.
I am not a practicing Anglican.
I was referring to the ambassador position.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
There's no truth to it as far as you're aware.
Nobody has spoken to me
and
asked me whether I am able or willing to do that.
Thank you for the clarification.
A job.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's in their mind, it ain't been communicated to me yet.
Yeah, so I suppose I'll ask you then, were you to be suggested both? Or were you to have a choice?
Archbishop or?
No, let's put the Archbishop thing to the side for the moment, if that's all right with you. I don't know.
I mean, it comes with a good gaff, I gather. I mean, that Lambeth Palace, that's, really.
Well, look, maybe further down the line, but for the moment, if we can focus on something that seems a bit more realistic, given your conversion to Anglicanism, or you're not a practicing Anglican, right? So it seems unrealistic for the moment.
I feel a bit embarrassed sort of having this conversation under the shadow of the great cathedral here at
right.
Christchurch. I feel like a sort of thunderbolt might suddenly come in.
Right. Well, I think that sounds like there's maybe some reflection in your personal life about religion that might be needed there. But before you can move on to that, I wanted to ask you about the two positions which, even though you've never explicitly been asked, seem to be in contention. Were you to be offered to be ambassador to the US and to be Oxford Chancellor, which would you definitively choose?
Well, one hasn't been offered and the other is subject to an election. So, I mean, it's more than a hypothetical question.
But
I mean, the
you would have a
basis of it
preference, right?
doesn't
You would have a
exist.
preference.
But let's be absolutely clear about this. One is a role in Oxford and the other is a job that you're talking about.
Right.
They are not the same. This is chalk and cheese here. And if in the event of this scenario that you describe arising, what would I do? Well, I suspect I'd be spending an awful lot of time advancing Oxford's interests in America, and I would be probably spending quite a lot of time attracting American philanthropy to Oxford. But it isn't on offer, so it isn't on the table.
Of course.
But I mean, I know that many people think that it would be a perfect fit, perfect match. I really don't have a view on that. All I know is that I'm standing for the role, to which I hope I will be elected in the coming week. Let's keep it in perspective. It's going to be if I'm lucky enough to be elected, it will be a busy role. It will take a lot of energy on my part. I will be totally committed to promoting the university, protecting the university, and protecting, by the way, the values of the university and the academic freedom and freedom of expression that exists in the university. So I'll be doing all those things. And at the same time, if I'm asked to do something, for the government or for the country, well, of course. I mean, I'm not following trails laid by my political opponents in various newspapers.
Do you think that the fact that you've seemingly consistently associated with maybe people who have been labeled as problematic is coincidental?
There is no secret or mystery about anything to do with any Russian oligarch in my professional or private life.
So long as there are no strings, you would be happy taking money from anyone without ethical limits. No strings.
No strings. I think that what students are interested in is the future of the university.